Okay. And stream has officially started.
Oh
All right.
god.
So, yeah, as Ruin just said, welcome back to the Eternal Flames. Hi, my name's Blaze. Pleasure to see everybody, and we're doing some world builders tonight. In the background, I got No Man's Sky going just because we want something for people who tune into a podcast for visual stuff. If it sounds silly, it's because it is. Anyways, moving on.
We want you to watch our words.
So, Ruin here.
That's me. I'm that one. I'm
Ruin's been with us since World of Estrangia. And you are actually prompting for a new smaller nation within one of our bigger nations for one of your new characters, which you are the only character who can get away with
nonsense.
Well, that too. You're the only character who can basically get away with changing their everything, but with the potential for great loss.
With great power comes greater loss.
I mean, in your case, yes, actually. While you do generally gain more than you lose, it doesn't change the fact that it could still very prominently impact your character. Damn, what's wrong? Okay, so part of this character revamp is you are going to be adding more Kitsune to the character sheets. And this is a big problem because we do have already a Kitsune on board. She already exists. She's technically part of Tri's Myriad, but Tri has left her as an enigma, which is very profitable for you, actually.
Get money off this.
Not quite the profit I meant, but
dang.
Yeah, still. So me and you were talking a bit about this prior. And one of the things that we talked about was you want a group of people who, for lack of better terms, are in hiding comparatively to most of the other kinds of races. Partially just because of how their village sees themselves, correct?
Yeah, something like that.
Well, go ahead and lay down your basis, and then me and Sasquatch can kind of work from there.
Alright, so the idea is they are a separated group. They don't do magic. In fact, a lot of them don't even know magic exists. They're not like super technologically advanced, but that's enough so that they can get by. Yeah, that's the very basic for what the island it would be.
Which is kind of funny because you're a sorcerer. There's number one. Two, you're a Kitsune, which is already a huge number two right there.
Yeah.
So you're literally magic incarnate. Now Sasquatch has brought up the fact of how many tails. And that's actually important for a Kitsune because an older and stronger Kitsune is, as they grow in magical prowess, they generally tend to get more tails. So it's an honest question. How many tails?
I'd have to look that up, what the game says about tails, because in this, it's, I think, based on age.
Yeah, let me see if... Yep, Foundry is up. Game Master. And I can do this real quick on my secondary screen, because right now I have the luxury of working off of two screens. Okay, I'm in. I can go into my notes. Okay, Kitsune Ancestry. This is... Okay, Kitsune are charismatic and witty people with a connection to the spiritual that grant them many magical abilities, chiefly the power to super or shape change into other forms, whether they pass unseen among others or hold their tails high. Kitsune are clever observers. Okay. Kitsune are shape changed to two forms, one a fox-headed humanoid, the other a highly dependent on where they were raised. Those in populated areas typically have what's called the tailless form, a humanoid without any features that resemble more common ancestry such as an elf or a human. In wooded or rural areas, the second form is more likely to be that of a fox. Though all Kitsune settlements exist, all Kitsune settlements exist, most live among people of their ancestries, granting them a degree of external insight into social rules or dynamics of others, perceiving the process only subconsciously. Kitsune enjoy subverted expectations as much as they do go along with them. Their fondness for jokes, stories, and wordplay, so you're going to be a wordy bastard. Interesting.
Sometimes. Don't worry about it.
Reinforcing their reputation as a trickster. With dual forms and a connection to both the material and spiritual world, Kitsune have a diverse concept of self and identity, some even viewing their forms as separate individuals altogether, using them to explore different aspects of their personality.
All right. Looks like it doesn't say anything. So
physical
I would
description.
say it's based on level.
Well, we've got a physical description here. Kitsune are alert, vulpine ears, pointed snouts, and short, semi-retractable claws in their fingers and toes. Their fur is dense, countershed, red, tan, black, or white in color. Bushy tails that grow in number as they hone their initial magical ability. So, it's based on your magical power. So yeah, it's going to be a level thing.
Yeah.
Which I think is perfectly acceptable. Because right now you are currently, and let's just drag up your character sheet here. You are currently level 8. After this dungeon crawl, you guys will probably be level 9. So that would put you about 4 tails, give or take. Which is still pretty strong for a Kitsune. Most Kitsune maybe get to 2 or 3 before they run into enough trouble that they're, well, they're just that. They're in trouble.
I'd say 3 or 4 tails is likely, yeah.
Anyways, so moving off of that, we're here to build the world, not the character. The character is on your end, the world's on our end. So, describe a bit of where they grew up, and we'll go off of what we can here.
All right. So it's primarily a farming village. Yeah, so big wheat fields, all that. There would be some forest that. This is how the Kitsune part comes in. There's a shrine in the forest that a quote-unquote god lives in.
Yeah.
They call him a god because they don't know about magic, and they just have really powerful magic, and they're not human.
That's fair. Which is funny because we actually stated that this is going to be in the religious kingdom, which is very rife with magic. So that these people are very much outliers in their normal state. And I think me and you actually talked about this. The government of what we're essentially, I guess, going to call the villages. Just because of whatever, I can rename it later as we get closer to this part. Because I imagine at some point or another, we'll either run into this place or we'll hear more about it. In the villages, right? We'll get back to that. Basically, magic is trickery as far as they're concerned. It's sleight of hand, right?
Yeah.
which means people who have an innate idea of trickery or sleight of hand, or in this case, just straight out magic, are probably looked at as like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
So they're seen as, I guess we could call it a godkin.
Yeah, they're seen as something like that, but they're just like a regular person, pretty much. High leveled, but yeah.
Regular
But yeah,
person in
magic.
normal sense.
Yeah. Magic in this kind of area would be burn the witch type stuff.
Burn the witch. No, that's fair. All right. So you said they have just enough technology, or they're willing to use a certain level of technology up to a point.
Yeah.
What I'm thinking, partially just because of where Kitsune come from, as far as legend and lore and all that, is probably something closer to the Edo period of Japan. So bamboo, forest, heavy density, heavy idea of gods and all that. Magic is something well beyond that of nature, yet it's also probably the most natural thing of all.
I'm thinking kind of like the end period where they get introduced to guns and stuff and other technology.
I want to say that's the Edo, but
I think it's end of Edo.
Okay. Okay, that would be yeah, I'm looking for what period. Yes, I know it was a big thing for Oda Nobunaga. Okay. What period of Japan? That's the Sengoku.
Yeah.
I think Edo was before, which is kind of on me. Yeah, Sengoku period. We're basically thinking about the time of just to put in anime terms because someone's gonna latch onto that. The end of Kenshin. Because that's when you start seeing the iron ships. That's when you start seeing rifles start to pop up, which are obviously overtaking the samurai sword as the weapon of choice. It's the samurai slowly laying down their arms because the war period has quote-unquote ended. And we could very easily play this place off as a very Japanese-themed, smaller nation. Or even province, depending on how small we want to make it. But we can also easily talk about the fact that, yeah, while they are in a religious sect of nations, there are a lot of people who are isolationists throughout any world that really don't interact with other nations outside of their government.
That's kind of what this island will be. It's like humans. They're all just humans. Sometimes dwarves show up and do trade because everyone knows dwarves are the masters at stuff.
Basically, there's already an ill content towards dwarves, which that's interesting.
It's ill content towards non-humans.
That's fair. Which is kind of funny because we haven't talked about we've talked about them existing. We haven't actually talked about dwarves at all during Ozymistra.
I did something.
Well, no, I brought that up specifically for Sasquatch as well because we never really got into any dwarven kingdoms, though they have appeared on more than one occasion. Um, there's an obvious reason for that. First off, dwarves don't really like clouds and sky. Like they are very earthbound people. But in Ozzy Mistra, there's a lack of footing, so to speak.
All right, this is my new headcanon. Dwarves are primarily sky pirates. In fact, there's just one giant dwarven sky pirate base.
Ironically, no. I've actually already got this figured out, but I've been kind of waiting for the topic to pop up.
It's too late. It's my headcanon. You can't do anything to it until it's proven wrong.
This is a case where, and hopefully Sasquatch will agree with me. I know he's being a bit quiet because he's working on other stuff as well. So we talked about the mines once before, right? How...
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, we vaguely talked about the mines because that's where people are getting gravity stone outside of their islands. Because if you take too much gravity stone from the islands obviously start to kind of sink, right? Because it's literally what's holding them up. Well, we also...
They're on the bottom layer.
The dwarves are on the bottom layer. They're in the...
now.
Kind of, yes, actually. So we haven't had much of a chance to talk about the Underdark. I'm unplugging my headset and hoping that it lasts. Let's see what the battery power is right now. That way I can make sure that I can walk around without the plug-in for a while. It says 94. I'm not sure how much I trust that, but I'm gonna trust it for right now.
I feel that with my headset. Ah, yes, 80%. Low battery.
This headset's been kind of a pain in the butt, but it was a choice that we had at the time, and we didn't exactly have a ton of choices, so...
Yeah, I get that.
But anyways, no, straight out, the dwarves are basically in what we would call the Underdark for this campaign. And the reason being...
Zero.
They're on layer 0, but what makes it such a big deal is they will probably never come out of hiding. They are a species that everybody knows, but no one knows where they come from. And the reason being for that is, for them, the sky has no place for them. Everybody else can roam about the sky and everything else and feel comfortable and happy and they can deal with it. Dwarves will constantly feel a restless unease. Because to them, there is no solid ground anymore. There is no hum of the earth. There are no volcanoes. There is no, magma explosions. There is no true solid earth. Fish is ready, love. So for them, the entirety of these sky islands feels distant and wrong. But you obviously have a couple that are willing to, for lack of better terms, put up with it. These are the individuals that don't feel malice or anger towards the situation. They just see it as another opportunity to try to be something greater than their ancestors, if only for a bit.
They're the greatest shipwrights in this one land.
I mean, technically, yeah. They're the people who can build the great, amazing ships. They're the people who can still work the greatest of metals. They're the people who still seek out all these amazing things and amazing places, because to them, that's life. That's normal. Alright.
Yeah.
And... oh, this is not gonna snap? Okay, fine. Don't snap, you ugly bastard. Wait, what? Okay, back to the Kitsune because that's why we're here. Okay.
Yes.
So, you have mentioned that your character very much obviously fits into a weird little bump in the world. They are obviously part of a magical race, which doesn't entirely have the greatest of bearing for them. If anything, it kind of makes them an outlier, a stranger, something not normal, for lack of better terms.
Yeah.
And this is just their entire community. It's mostly humans, so you mentioned that. I want so badly to switch the name of humans, but it's because of something I actually saw that makes more sense.
Yerman.
Well, you obviously Delicious in Dungeon.
I've heard of it.
Have you not seen Delicious in Dungeon?
No, I do know of it.
I highly recommend that one, man. Anyways.
Yeah, I've heard.
Yeah, it's one of the few things that I will actually insist people watch because the show starts off derpy and kind of, meh, 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 and by the time you actually get far enough into it, it gets serious. The fight scenes get really good. The lore gets really good. It very much changes its dynamic. Try and remember what I was trying to do, and now I don't remember. God damn it. Okay. Golden Iron Plate. Anyways, one of the things that they do in that is they call humans tallmen. Because it makes sense though, right? Well, you've got the dwarves, you've got the elves, you've got the short feet, which are like gnomes and stuff like that, halflings.
Sanyolo.
And then you've got the tall men who are just, because everybody's technically a person, everybody's a man or a woman, right? But they happen to just be taller than other people.
So it's kind of similar to Final Fantasy XIV, where all of the races are human.
Yeah.
It's just the different peoples of human.
Pretty much, yeah. Which to me makes more sense because we try so hard to define humanity as something grandiose and special, but it's partially to do with the fact that we're the only real sentient creatures, or not sentient, that's not true. The only real, I'm trying to think of how to word stuff. The only creatures that are capable of changing not just our environment, but the planet.
For the worst.
Honestly, I'm of the opinion that it's a 50-50. The greedy tend to change it for the worse, and the not-so-greedy tend to change it for the better. But we sadly let the greedy rule us, which has caused problems.
The bad. Yeah.
But once again, personal opinion, and I know someone could fight me on that, but whatever.
I'll fight you.
Anyways.
Has no relation to that, but I'll fight you.
So, your character is very much not human. It's grown up in a human society, is used to hiding self, if I remember correctly. We've got a Japanese-style village setup. Now, I'm thinking we probably leave this to one island. Granted, we can leave it to a fairly big island. Is there any place where Kitsune gather on this island, or is it just like you don't show, you don't tell, you basically are constantly in a state of, for lack of any better terms, hiding?
Hiding.
Okay.
There, I would say for how I have thought this out, there would be only 2 confirmed kitsune on the island, but there would possibly be others.
Which
One is the
makes sense.
not god, and the other would be my character because they are the child of said not god.
Gotcha. Okay, so we've definitely established that now. Obviously,
Yeah.
once again, it's don't show, don't tell situation. Me and you actually discussed this, and we did kind of figure out that True Sight obviously kind of thwarts the capabilities of your transformation, because True Sight would show their most natural form.
Yeah, I believe after looking into it more, True Sight's effect would be that it's not their real form, but you can't see what it actually is.
The way I see it, and once again, tell me if I'm wrong. They might see like a shadowy haze of what their form is supposed to be. Basically, it'd be like looking at at the wall of somebody, and instead of seeing like what should be their natural shadow, you see something that doesn't quite seem to match that.
Yeah, that's a good way
idea.
to interpret it. Yeah, it'd be one of those something's off, but you can't tell.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking too. Is something's not quite right, but because I believe we do have characters in the party that have the ability to see through illusions via something similar to True Sight. But I also don't want to push that, because let's face it, there have been several times where our players have, I think the best way to put it is, been extremely dumb.
Not gonna name names.
I mean, I can easily do that instead, but that's beside the point.
Some of them have been hilarious, but not gonna name names.
But yeah, I mean, I figure by doing it that way, it becomes more interesting when it does happen, because it'll be more of a natural process. Honestly, I would say on that island there might be a couple of dozen total. And to me, that's partially just because if it's a don't show, don't tell, right? Then no one else needs to fucking know.
Yeah.
And, especially if they're in hiding. Because why would you open yourself up to the potential chance of being flatly killed? I mean, that's too high of a risk. Especially if your mom and dad are like, listen, if anybody ever figures this out, you're probably going to be taken away, and that's the end of it. That's it. There is no more. You're going to die.
Yeah, basically the only reason why that hasn't happened is because they're afraid of the god.
Yeah.
Because, if someone is able to shoot lightning bolts out of their hands, and that's not something you normally can do, you might try and stay away from them or anger them.
Yeah. So there's the question. The god you mentioned, right? Is it another kitsune, or is it?
They are another kitsune. They are just really strong with magic, and that's it. They showed up, they have magic, everyone's like, oh man, that's a god.
That sadly makes sense. Which, once again, actually, if anything, you may have created another BBEG for me. Well, the thing is all of our BBEGs, and I'm going to lay out a couple of them for you, Ruin, because I know you're not gonna metagame. So you've got the Emperor,
Yeah.
and he shows up in a couple more texts, not just the Alchemist texts. Which I'm looking
Yep.
forward to you guys finishing the Alchemist texts. We have a couple other journals that are out in the world, and for the record, all of the journals give a stat boost. So as you guys read them, you guys will actually get stat boosts. It's one, a reason to prompt you guys to read, but it's also a reason to give you guys bonus stats for doing something that adds to the lore and entertainment value of the series.
Yeah, makes sense.
Well, I want you guys to feel rewarded for doing something that you guys normally wouldn't take the time to do.
Yeah, makes sense.
But yeah, I mean, oh, thank goodness. So, yeah, anyways, the Emperor is one BBEG, and he essentially is the ruler of what we're, for the time, going to call Sky Canada. Because Cyber Geese, Cyber Moose, there's a very Canadian theme there.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, being the ruler of Canada sounds like a damn good job.
That's just England.
Oh, no. No, I would not call England the ruler of Canada because those fuckers can't even rule themselves.
It's technically true, though.
It is technically true. But I also want to make the note that they can't even say water right.
Are you sure?
I will be that asshole right now.
Are you sure they can't say it right when it started there and then moved to America? And
Considering the
after?
fact that they try to push aluminium instead of aluminum, which was the original stated word, they tried to correct the English of Americans constantly, but then when they get to stuff like water, it's water. It's like the T completely vanishes from their dialect.
I mean, if you go to Jersey, it's Wooder.
Yeah, but that's Jersey, and no one likes Jersey.
Wow.
But no, jokes aside, no, you've got the Emperor, and we vaguely touched on it in the red letters, but there's actually a giant Leviathan that's on layer 0.
Yeah.
That.
And there's the bear.
Oh, he's not BBEG. He wishes he was a BBEG.
No, he's a BBG. But like an optional one. He's a side quest.
He's a side quest. The bear is very much a side quest. But those are a couple of the ones that I have set up. There are others. And the reason why I don't just oust them is because I kind of need them for when the group goes off kilter. Because there are enough options in this world that it's very easy to throw it. Because, yeah, me and Sasquatch have put our heads together to make sure that, one, if this campaign ever collapses, we can easily start up a brand new one, no problem, in the same world. But two, I needed something in case Ranky and or Demon were extremely dumb. Because, let's face it, those two can easily sidetrack us. I'm a little surprised Try isn't as bad as them.
It's because he's seen how bad they are. It's like, dear God.
Yeah, he's very much like you, where he's kind of wrangling them in, and which is funny because you're supposed to be our chaotic person, and yet you're the person who tends to drag everybody back to the main story.
I use my meta-ing for the power of good.
Yeah, no joke. Anyways, back on topic. Back on topic. Okay, so we got these villages. We've got the fact that they are basically late period Senjuku.
They're isolationists.
They're isolationists. While they are willing to use technology, they try to keep it semi-minimized, and magic is a big no-no. So anybody who has magical capability to them is, what we're just going to call it what it is, a threat.
But alchemy's okay, though. It's not magic.
No, alchemy in this universe, as well as artificing, are basically considered rudimentary technology. Which is funny because you think they'd be in the science camp, but the science camp, especially when you start getting into some of the upper layers, they start to get a bit creepy. You guys will notice this.
What? You mean the weird tentacle hamster isn't creepy?
I mean, we basically thrown a bunch of different kinds of worlds together to make one ginormous world. And a great example of that is the fact that we have basically thrown in multiple different forms of dystopia.
It's got Nintendo'd.
Well, that's just it. I mean, it very much is. There we go. Okay. It very much is the idea of, for every utopia, there has to be an equal dystopia. And it's because in order to have a true utopia, right, someone has to lose. So someone has to do the hard work that no one else wants to do.
The dwarves.
The dwarves in this case are definitely part of the dystopia. They very much, comparatively, they do partially just because of their ancestry. To them, there is no actual choice in this. For them to choose, they would have to forfeit their ancestry, and they're not willing to do that.
Yeah.
And that's something else that we can really touch on is, yeah, they do have choice. They do have the ability to go, hey, yeah, this is the way I want to, live my life and everything else. But it's also one where it very much confines them to very specific things in a very nasty, dirty way. But anyways, yeah. In your particular case, because I want to stay on track as best I can, because we're only like an hour in.
Yeah, you're doing great.
Well, we've already got a lot of the nuance in, because we have an idea of what kind of world this is. You're talking about people who walk around in kimonos. You're talking about people who aren't afraid of heavy labor and work, who aren't afraid to make medicines or get their hands dirty. But you're also talking about people who are very religious, very superstitious, and while they don't necessarily shun the world around them, they're not pro the world around them either. They very much have their own ideals of how the world needs to be, and they want no part of it.
Kind of like old Japan.
Very much like old Japan, which, once again, works phenomenally in this particular case because it gives us a perfect base to work from.
We're just making Sky Japan.
Yeah, more or less. But once again, that's important to rationalize and note is we are basically taking a nation that we know of. We're making the fantasy equivalent of it. And we're saying not only is this a casual thing for these people, but you're almost starting to hit dystopian levels. Because in a very religious kingdom that looks at the world from the idea of... From the point of view of Ozzy Mistra, right? These are people who are going to be the grunt labor for these big churches, for these big consolidations of power in this world, who get to, you know, talk to gods and get to wield these giant magics and all that. A countryman who does not get to enjoy or indulge in these same luxuries very much falls within the dystopian mindset. It falls within that idea of they are not allowed to partake of the glories that is eloquated to their own countrymen. And part of it's their own fucking fault. Like, we've openly stated that they very much are perfectly fine and okay with this. Did I really do that? Did I? I think I goofed.
You did it.
Yeah, I accidentally put some rooms, like, subterranean. There we go. But yeah, I mean... It's very much their own fault for letting themselves fall into this rut.
Yeah.
There we go. Okay. So I said we're gonna call these the villages until we can figure out a different name for it.
Yep.
Here's my question. Of these villages, right? Because we're gonna say there's probably maybe half a dozen of these towns. Of these half a dozen small villages and towns and everything else, I'm going to assume that one of them, very similar to the first island you guys were on, has something equivalent to a barony, right? Something where there is a ruling class, aka you've got your god or whatever, this person who wields untold magic.
Yeah.
Obviously there is a town somewhere that applies to this asshole. What exactly is this town like? Do they still have that Shinjuku feel, or would they start to press a little bit more into a more technological or alchemical based thing? Would they be rife with the different religions? Would they be more advanced, or would they be more, maybe more passive? Like, how's that one look?
It would be more advanced, more passive, but they still... It's kind of still one of those, oh, don't go there. Don't go there. Yeah, the god lives there, but they're not one of us, so don't go there unless you need to.
So it's not quite shunned, but it might as well be.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm almost imagining Boo's Castle to a certain degree. Where, like, people know it's haunted, people know that there's danger there, and they don't really visit it unless they need to.
Yeah. Like, it would still have, like, a thriving trade base, because there is the god there, so people will go. But it'd be more along the lines of don't go up the stairs to where they are unless you absolutely have to.
Yeah, it would be your normal ruling town where the only time you visit the castle is if you have extreme business there to start with.
Yeah.
Okay. And then everywhere else is there are no major prosperous villages. There's just a bunch of different villages. Each one may have like a shop or two, but for the most part they're their own little thing.
Yeah.
And I assume your character's probably from one of the smaller ones still. One of the ones that very much is one of the rice farming provinces, like probably on the outer edge. They're there to help feed everybody, but not much else.
Yeah, as they are not one of the people of this place, they primarily rely on themselves, but yeah. So they've learned how to do a bunch of the necessity kind of things.
Yeah. Makes sense to me. Sasquatch, do you have anything else you'd like to add on to this?
Not in the moment, but you know me, I'll probably end up grinding on this for a bit and come up with something.
No, that's fair. I'm going to go ahead and delve in a little bit more into the world building itself, because we've established once again that it's not part of the big religious empire, because once again Ozymistra is split into essentially 5 different factions. You have the lower middle religious area, which is where Try's from, and it's why he's kind of a princeling. Is he basically comes from an archbishopry that had some control over the religious sect of this particular nation. You have
similar to what my character is going to be, but different.
With less. Yeah, yours has a lot less political power.
0 power, because they're not a human, and everyone knows a human-based place. We're all like, not human, can't trust you.
But then we've got the upper religious area, which is actually where casters come from. It's the reason why I tried and get the choice to start with stuff like that.
You're back, I'm still listening.
Okay. Then you've got the technological sciencey kingdom of the middle, which is kind of where Ranky leans in, but not quite. Ranky's still more in what we could call the Freelands. The Freelands are basically a handful of kingdoms that don't fall into any of the other 4 empires, but they're almost like more of a confederacy, where it's a bunch of smaller places that are all working together to survive so that they don't get absorbed into one of the other 4. And the nations are not inherently evil, or good for that matter. They're nations. They're groups of people who are all working together for what they consider a common goal. Ruin, you probably fall into some of the lower religious sect, just because if your people don't look highly upon religion or magic, it's probably something that they're not going to press too heavily into. And as such, yeah, they're part of a bigger nation, but they're still locking themselves away. Probably the best way I can put it. Excuse me. Sorry, I'm not really sleeping on Sunday.
Okay, I'm back. Just
Welcome
notes
back.
for stuff. Um, for this place, there would be two main religions.
Okay.
The old religion, which is the old one. I haven't thought anything about that.
And we can
And-
work it through a little bit.
And the new one, which is this usurper, I'm going to call them, not a god.
I mean, that's fair, actually.
Yeah, like their heritage would be Palace of Echoes, which is because they're so good with words and stuff, they became the ruler behind the throne kind of thing. But this one, with their grand magic, just took up the throne entirely.
I get you.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, the people are religious, but it's split into two, and one of them is we fear the god
Yep.
because we can actually see them.
Because this is World Builders, you know, this isn't Ozzy Mistra where we have to actually put up stuff. Let's actually take some time to work on that religion. So
Okay.
yeah, this is the show where we can actually do that versus Ozzy Mistra where it's like, no, we gotta think of the game and all that. No, this is the one where we actually get to dig through religion and all that and actually have an opinion on that shit. Okay, so it's an old religion. It obviously we want to probably stay within the Japanese theme, and
Yeah,
I'm going to go ahead and make a dive at this, and we're going to call it probably something similar to Buddhism, because there are other very important races that are in Pathfinder 2nd Edition that we can play around with. One of which is basically the animal folk, right? There's a number of different animal folk that live within it. Some are like gnolls and all that, which is basically how I developed my honey badger man. The honey badger men are very similar to gnolls. If anything, their stat block is very much based off of gnolls.
I thought they were gnolls until you said they were honey badgers.
Yeah, and that's somewhat on purpose. It's definitely one where I kind of need them to be nondescript to a certain extent, because the joy of nondescript characters is the fact that they are just that. They are nondescript. The only reason why I call them badger people is because I need them to have the badger attitude, which everybody knows how a honey badger feels about shit. They don't give a fuck. So I kind of needed that mentality in Huxpa with them. Otherwise, things weren't going to work. So, sticking with a Buddhist theme, I'm going to probably say that we are going to have one god that is somewhat above the rest. Probably similar to Buddha, but we might call him something else. I haven't completely decided on that one yet.
Okay.
But by going with that, we can also start playing on some of the other bits of this religion. Because along with Buddha, you get characters like Oolong, the pig. You get characters like Wukong, the Monkey King. And so on and so forth. You also get characters like Nezha, who is quite literally a sun god. And it's funny, too, because I'm mentioning these names, and I don't even think people really realize where, like, all these characters actually fit into Buddhism, and it's because Buddha wasn't originally a god.
He was just a guy.
Yeah, he was literally a
great
guy who... He was.
and I believe is actually confirmed to have been a real person, not just. Yeah.
Yeah, no, Buddha was a real person. Once
Yeah.
again, something that not enough people actually know is Buddha was a living, breathing person who basically was trying to teach not the way of gods, but the ways of the universe. That was his intent. That was his goal. Was, hey, listen, I know how the universe works, and I know how it fits together, and I would like to talk to you about it. He was literally a Jehovah Witness for freaking China and Japan and all of them, for the Asian countries. And it's where Buddhism teaches what we can essentially call universalism. It's the idea that all is one, one is all. There is no master race, there is no master creature, there is no master. Everything fits together within the world in one way or another. And because of that, we need to realize that we are very much a part of the universe in its whole and need to respect it, while at the same time, we need to understand that because we are one with the universe, this also means that we have every right to everything else, just like everything has a right to everything else as well. It gets a lot more complex than that, but I'm not going to dive too far into it because this is not a religious channel. This is a D&D channel. This is a Pathfinder channel. This is a RPG channel, a TTRPG channel to be more specific.
We do stuff here.
But anyways, moving on from that. All jokes and whatnot aside, yeah, Buddha was a real person with very impacting consequences, and I think a lot of people have just forgotten that nowadays, because why would you remember some weird guy walking around in Asia, probably barefoot, literally loafing from place to place, and trying to spread the word of the universe?
Word of the universe.
Yeah, religion gets really weird when you start to get towards its roots, because Jesus was the same kind of thing. He was basically a wandering hobo, spreading the word of God. Anyways, back to the Kitsune thing. Try to stay on topic as best we can. We can try. We will fail, but we can try.
Try's not here.
Damn it, you're right. Yeah, this gives us options to kind of play with that set of godhood. Now, obviously, Kitsunes being the way they are, it seems very obvious that this pretender is trying to elevate his own power into what we would call an imperial god hand. You know, someone who not only is usurping the prior religion, but is trying to instate their own religion. They are God. They are forever. And very much as magic does, they're probably en route to slowly become a lich. Which, once again, makes them a pretty easy BBEG. Especially when no one's going to contend with them. No one's going to be a competitor there. This is a person that has all the opportunity and air to do what they need to do to achieve their goal. And we know from the past that there have been several emperors in both Japan and China that have looked for the fruit or the elixir of life. Hell, Europe is just as fucking bad because fucking Europe.
Yeah.
So, our two religions are, one, someone who's basically looking to become a god king. And two...
And
yeah, partially because there is no competition there. And two, the ideal universe. The idea that everything in its own right is just a part of a bigger whole. And the funny part is we can also play this into other bits of story. So we've got a couple of people who are from the outside who would very easily influence this person with their ego. An example of this is the Cult of the Worm. The Cult of the Worm, as we already know, has an end goal. What that end goal is, we're not 100% sure yet. Or let me rephrase that. My players and the audience is not 100% sure.
Have the best snack.
But then you've got basically whatever their motive is, which seems to be feed the worms. Because of that, I could totally see them trying to influence this person, thinking he's some big, amazing thing, only to end up a cog of someone else's plan, or maybe to use them as a cog in his plan. Who the fuck knows how that one will run its course? It can go either way, frankly. But having said that, we know outside forces will probably try to interject in one form or another. Wow, I've got a bunch of storms coming in. Ah, damn it. Okay.
Yeah.
Trying to think of what else we can add to this, or if we want to cut it there.
So kind of unrelated to that, but also kind of related to it with the maybe him, this god going for
Lichdom?
lichdom. That is actually a thing you can pick up in the Pathfinder, is to become a lich.
Yeah. Well, it's partially because a lot of TTRPGs do that anymore, is technically there are ways to become liches.
Like, it's an actual skill you pick up. It requires crafting.
I can believe that. Oh,
Because
sure.
you have to make your phylactery and everything.
Yeah, whereas different games actually have several different ways that they like to go about that. Honestly, I know in Curse of Strahd, Strahd actually uses a dragon heart for a phylactery. Because, you know, of course the Vampire Lord would. Get out of my way. Ah, damn it.
At level 12, you can pick up Lich Dedication.
Oh, it's just a full-on dedication, jeez.
It's just a full-on dedication.
I mean, once again, it gives us more premise to actually work with, which is fine by me.
So he's going to be similar to that one person from Baldur's Gate 3.
I have... okay, straight out, I have not had the opportunity to play all the way through Baldur's Gate 3 yet. And every time I try to get people to play with me, they're already playing with somebody else, or they've already played through it. It's very agitating.
That's fair. The Gith ruler, their god queen, is just a lich and not actually a god.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
All right.
Yeah, that tracks.
Yeah.
Fuck, I'm trying to think of what I'm doing here.
Break the walls.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you're watching the stream or not, because I'm building up a base in No Man's Sky.
I'm totally watching.
Dude, you're fine. I don't expect anybody to actually watch these yet. We actually do have people who go back and actually rewatch like the episodes that I post. So we somehow or another have an audience for this, despite the fact that my channel's been dead for a while now. Alright, there we go. Yeah, right now I'm working on my hydroponics room. So now I've got all these nice little hydroponics areas that I can actually plant a bunch of stuff. Okay, I think we have everything that we need. I want to say that we have everything that we need. We've been going for, geez, a little over an hour. About an hour and almost 10 minutes, which is way shorter than I would like to go, but it is what it is. And I guess we'll gloss over everything real quick and go from there. So, your character comes from a small town, generally a small farming area. And in this farming area, you are an outlier. You are unique unto yourself.
Yeah.
Now, due to this obviously makes you kind of a outcast of sorts, but also not really.
Accepted because I help.
You're accepted because you don't fit outside the norm. Everybody just assumes that you are as normal as everybody else.
Yeah.
Which does work in your favor. Try and think of... Anyways, moving on. So there are about 6 to 12 towns. And I'm just going to go ahead and say that it's going to be... We'll get back to that, actually. The more I think about it, the more I'm like, maybe I want to spend some time on that. There is one town in which case you guys have a ruling party. And said ruling party is kind of a Vastage.
It happens.
Now, there's two major religions that are taking place in this particular area. And these two religions aren't super competing, but they're competing enough. We've got the Kitsune God, who is basically trying to say that everything else is a lie, and that he is truly the one true entity. Versus what we're, for the moment, going to call Buddhism, partially just because it's going to make things a little bit easier, but later on we will probably think of our own name for it. Just because while uniqueness is not always a good thing, I'm of the opinion that it helps make our world feel more like its own world and not just a giant meme. Because sadly, that is a trope that we could easily fall into, is we are just one giant meme campaign, which has its own fun to a degree, but can definitely wear on the integrity of the world. Our problematic Kitsune, aka the one emperor or whatever we want to call him. I don't want to call him an emperor since he's part of an empire. We might call him something else later, like a deacon or something. Actually, a deacon's probably a good one for it. But he is obviously going to eventually cause problems, which will need to be addressed. He is on his way to Lichdom. And I think here's the way we're going to play it. If the players decide to interact with this world, they are going to slowly find themselves village to village, helping with probably a number of different monstrosities that come from the forest. Plays are creatures that do not seem to attack the capital, but obviously seem to have no problem munching and enjoying other creatures on the island. AKA they're eating
non-believers.
For lack of better terms, we're just gonna call them yokai because it fits the theme. These creatures are probably going to bring back whatever power they absorb from others to the Kitsune Lord. The Kitsune Lord is basically looking for materials as well as power so that they can become a lich. Which, once again, you mentioned that alchemy and artificing are kind of normal there, but probably tampered down to more of a feudal aspect. So this guy probably already has the best he's going to get on this island, maybe even some stuff from other islands while he's trying to become a lich.
Alright, I have a thing to put out there for a bit of this.
Go for it.
He came on his own little airship, right?
Sure.
The party's going to encounter my character before they ever show up here, if they ever do.
Yep. That's the idea.
I stole the airship. So he's kind of stuck. Because this island doesn't have any airships. Sometimes others show up to trade, but it's like...
It's a rare enough incursion that he without stealing one himself, he can't just take off. Not only that, but because
it's one
of
those pitchforks versus guns kind of scenarios.
Yeah. I'd imagine for him, he probably would also like to leave, but to leave would mean to forfeit his current inventory, is probably the best way to say it, because when you have your own airship, you can easily pack up and kind of move around or whatever. When you're trying to take over a nation, and you no longer have your own airship, basically it's like, do I really want to steal a ship, pack up the lab, and then move? Or do I just want to stick it out, get this done, at which point, I'm a god, I can go where the fuck I please, and no one's going to stop me.
Alright, so there's more backstory reasoning for why the character left.
Yeah,
I don't know what
sense.
his goal was, and it was like, I just want even less to do with this place.
Well,
Maybe not to get help, just to leave.
Here's the even better part that I can throw on top of that. If the players leave the island alone, he will succeed. There you go. Flat out. If the players do not intervene, he will succeed. Son of a bitch. And my rationality for this is, one, it once again creates another. It creates another. Hi, Fury. It creates another BBEG. So were you just using me as a platform to get up higher, you little bastard?
Obviously, isn't that what you're for?
Anyways, so this is a case where player choice matters. And I do this with a lot of the stuff because the same thing is true of some of the other BBEGs. If they're left alone, some of their plans will start to succeed. The more their plans succeed, the more the player actually endangers stuff. Another great example of that is the Flesh Shaper virus that is basically going around. You guys have already encountered that, right? Heck, it's one of, I'm going to say our favorite villains because I enjoy throwing her out there. The Black Pudding. she's just a really easy one to work with, and because now she's actually throwing out doppelgangers, it makes her a bigger threat. But once again, if she's left alone for too long, she will eventually succeed. If the Emperor is left alone for too long, he will eventually succeed. If the Leviathan down at 0 succeed or is left alone for too long, he will eventually succeed. His plans should be pretty straightforward, but you know, whatever kind of situation.
Yeah.
But you get what I'm saying. Like, I've set up a living world where there are a lot of bad people, just like there are a lot of good people. It also means that
we'll
your guys
eventually deal with one of them.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's one of the reasons why I'm not afraid of you guys becoming bad guys, because no matter what, you guys are going to have to eventually deal with one of these BBEGs, because either you guys are going to want to be the good guys and want to stop them, or you're going to be a direct competitor. And we all know how direct competition works when it comes to someone who really wants something.
Yeah.
So
That was fun.
it's kind of my point. Like, I don't care whether or not you guys are the good guys or the bad guys. What I want is how far is it going to take before you guys end up becoming the good guys, even by accident?
Oh, you know, either right away or eventually.
And thus my point is made.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, there you go. So we have another BBEG that we can play around with. We have an idea of how it fits into the world. We have an idea of who is trying to do what, and how this fits into the overarching world, because it does make sense that he's in the religious area if he's trying to become a god. Because if he was in the scientific area, put nicely, they do not take kindly to godhood.
Maybe that's his ultimate goal.
World domination, because yeah, that sounds about right for most creature or characters like this.
I mean, taking over the science area, but yeah.
Well, I mean, all the BBEGs have some kind of either domination or destruction fetish. Is probably the best way to put it. Either they are looking to dominate in its entirety, or they are looking to destroy that which they do not care about.
All right.
Okay. Anything else anybody wants to add? Sasquatch, anybody?
Nope.
No, I mean, I have been taking notes like usual, so you and I can powwow about this later.
Yeah, me and Sasquatch will generally go over everything that everybody says and does, and we will put together, like, the other bits of the campaign. This also gives us another area to do a journal, because, like I said, we have journals for all kinds of stuff, Rowan. I think one of the journals I'm having the most trouble with, but I'm also having the most fun thinking about, is the Gooner journal. It's literally a journal that has been written by a goon in the Mafia, right? The place where you guys currently are. But what makes it interesting is it's basically a bunch of police reports that he stole of his own antics. And a couple other people's antics. But it's basically all the evidence that ties him to a number of different crimes. And whenever they get to the dialogue with said character, He's like, "Hi, my name's Terry, with an I, because I don't ask why. I just do things."
Wait, where's the I located?
Terry, Terri, because he doesn't ask why.
Okay, so it's not Tirry.
No. Because he doesn't
Is he-
ask why.
But
It
is
could be
he
Tirri. He's very terrible.
He really is, yeah.
I mean, if you want to lean into that, you can make him a Minotaur.
I kind of do now. Ruin is already ready to go. He is all
Right,
good to
right.
go.
That's great. All right.
But yeah, we'll call it from there. For those who are watching for whatever fucking reason, because once again, we have like the weirdest fucking show. Yeah, thanks for joining for World Builders. We will be back for World Builders in.
Eventually.
I don't know actually, because I'm not even sure how next weekend's gonna go, if I'm being completely honest. Next weekend, a bunch of people basically have their birthday like all at once, myself included, and it obviously it is gonna mess with scheduling. So we will be back with both tabletop RPGs as well as everything else. Eventually. Promise. It is something we have planned. I swear. The other thing to note is I will be working a lot of overtime at my job because they have started asking me to come in during weekdays around noon, and I work nights. So, yeah, it's gonna be 14-hour days, like 3 days out of the week. So, granted, it's only a 4-day week, but still. There is a chance I'm gonna be tired to all Hades, but hey, money, right? In the meantime, in between time, everybody take care, stay safe, stay well. We will see you when we see you, and yeah, have fun. Good night, everybody.
Yeah.
Night,
Have
all.
a good night. Or else.
Alright. And stopping stream.
All right. Good work,
Okay.
team.
So we have a basic idea of what we're doing. We have several redundancies that allow us to kind of figure out how we want to do stuff and all that. And honestly, it's looking pretty good. When do you want them to show up? Do you want them to show up before the race or after the race? There's probably the biggest kick in the nuts we need to do.
I'm gonna leave that to you.
Yeah, because if we do it before the race, it's going to fuck up everything.
Yeah. I'll leave that decision up to you. So. Yeah.
No, that's fair.
As I said before, whenever it is you want to do a new character interaction thingy that my character has, just give me like a session's head up so I can make one if I decide I want to switch whatever.
No, that's fair. All right. In the meantime, you go rest up, get rid of your sickness, and I'm gonna go eat dinner. Thanks again for joining us.